stand by for action.
Thanks for joining me. My name is Dave Miller. I am the Unpleasant Blind Guy. I want to start by thanking Chef IT, or Chef It, that's Misner Geek from the Twitter, for kind words about my conservative bite, lapdogs. Now, in recent times, there seems to be a sort of social myopia going on. An atmosphere created by race baiters holding all members of one race responsible for the evils of the world, while conveniently ignoring the most prolific purveyors of bigotry and hatred on the planet. Now, this is evident in what amounts to an op-ed titled, "I Could Have Been Sandra Bland, Black America's Terrifying Truth," this penned by Rutgers quote-unquote professor Brittany Cooper and posted in Big Surprise Salon on Thursday, July the 23rd. This article highlighted similarities between Ms. Cooper, I won't degrade the title of professor by giving it to her, and Sandra Bland, who was arrested after being pulled over for a minor traffic violation on July the 10th by Brian Encinia, a 30-year-old Texas Department of Public Safety trooper. Bland later hung herself in a jail cell, triggering speculation by race baiters that she was murdered by law enforcement officers. Now, part of this article reads, "White people resist seeing themselves in the face of the oppressor. That mirror reflection is almost too much to bear. I get it. So then they resent the person that holds up the mirror." As a sidebar, know what white people resent and what the members of any race would resent would be being told that all of them were represented by the worst of them. I'll continue with the story. "But let me just say as directly as I can, white people must begin to see themselves in the faces of the mostly white police officers who keep committing these atrocities against black and brown people. This will not stop until you recognize that you are them." Now, the only reason that it appears that almost on a daily basis white police officers are committing atrocities against black and brown people is because those are the news stories that are pushed out front. Police officers arrest criminals. Those criminals are of varying colors, and so are the police officers. But establishment media, in an attempt to push the American people apart, has chosen to highlight cases that make it look as if mostly white police officers are engaged in some sort of vendetta against people of color. Meanwhile, they, and people like Ms. Cooper, ignore the very real problem of black-on-black crime. Now, it's clear from this article that Ms. Cooper imagines herself in a segregated, bizarro world where everyone on the planet thinks as much about race as she does. It's also pretty clear that Ms. Cooper has been a racist for most of her adult life, and for anyone who might be prepared to object or wonder, yes, black people can be racist. They're black people. To be human is to be subject to the same evil and good tendencies. But in the case of Ms. Cooper, and others who think the way she does, of all colors, there appears to be a failure on their part to recognize the true oppressors in the world today. Some of the same people espousing the "Only Black Lives Matter" message appear to be the same people who defend and even facilitate the followers of Muhammad as they continue to infiltrate themselves into the civilized nations of the world. These individuals seem more than ready to hold up giant signs saying "whitey bad," while ignoring the slow encroachment of criminal behavior and barbarity which has followed the tide of Mohammedans as it has rushed across the world since Mecca and Medina. When I read articles by people like Ms. Cooper, I always try to encourage people who listen to the Unpleasant Blind Guy to not fall into the same trap of hate that Ms. Cooper has obviously been in for decades. I encourage you not to emulate Ms. Cooper. The people of the civilized world have clear and present enemies. Those who are ready to drag us all back into the 7th century, a time when human life meant nothing and daily existence was marked only by pain, death, and slavery. I encourage you to embrace each other as Americans, embrace each other as citizens of the civilized world, and leave people like Ms. Cooper and the other race bigots of the world on the ash heap of history. And that brings me to this time's Awesome American segment. And this one is a little strange. I don't often have politicians as Awesome Americans because they get enough press and they get their egos pumped up enough as it is. But I thought I'd highlight some politicians who are actually on the right track when it comes to stemming the tide of Islam and Islamization in the civilized world. If you listened to my conservative bite lapdogs, you'll hear that I think one of those is Governor Bobby Jindal. Though Governor Jindal has couched the truths that he speaks in politically correct language, he's at least speaking those truths. A thing that no other presidential candidate in the 2016 race is doing. And there are others. I particularly want to recognize Irving, Texas Mayor Beth Van Doyne and the 5 Irving City Council members who voted in a resolution to support Texas State House Bill 562, which, if passed, will ensure that foreign law will not supersede United States federal or Texas state law. Now I'm going to include the introduced version of this along with all other relevant documentation to this show at UBG Contact on the Twitter. That's where you can contact me with comments, questions, show suggestions, Awesome American suggestions. It is the main contact point for the show. Now, when the Irving City Council voted to support this bill back in March, local Muslims were not happy, as can be heard in this report from Jeff Paul of KTVT Television Channel 11, Fort Worth, Texas, dated March the 19th.
Anger tonight from Muslims in Irving. This after the city just approved a resolution that they say is aimed at persecuting their religion. Jeff Paul on the story, joining us live tonight where Irving's mayor is defending this vote that went down. Jeff?
Well, Doug, tempers flared here inside City Hall in Irving as council members voted and approved on this resolution right here in support of a House bill that forbids any use of any foreign law. Now, it was a more symbolic vote, but many Muslims who were inside tonight say they feel like they're being targeted and that it further solidifies Islamophobia.
Please vote.
In 5 seconds, the Irving City Council physically will change nothing.
And that motion passes 5-4.
But mentally, for the dozens of Muslims who packed inside City Hall, they say it crushes them.
I think it is the most disgraceful day as a citizen in Irving.
What Omar Solomon is talking about is the approved city resolution that supports House Bill 562. The proposed legislation codifies that U.S. and state laws supersede foreign laws.
The elephant in the room is that it's the anti-Sharia bill.
Many Muslims believe it's in reaction to a new Islamic tribunal that was just created in Irving earlier this year. The Muslim judges told us in February it was religious mediation for civil disputes like marriage and not binding.
This bill does not mention at all Muslim, Sharia law, Islam, even religion.
The mayor telling the crowd it's important to recognize the Constitution and unite behind U.S. and Texas laws.
Respect them, obey them, embrace them.
Muslims like Solomon say it's that rhetoric that furthers the stigma they say endangers them.
All we can do is we can take it to the ballot box. I mean, we will vote.
Now, state lawmakers in support of this House bill say it should get a reading later this month at a state judicial meeting, but it still has a long road before it sees any votes or is passed into law. Reporting live tonight here in Irving, I'm Jeff Paul, CBS 11 News.
Now, I'm encouraging all residents of the state of Texas to call their state House representatives and support House Bill 562. And I'm going to include a list of those representatives and their districts at UBG Contact on the Twitter as well. As of this recording, House Bill 562 is on the calendar and awaiting further action in the Texas State House. It's been called an anti-Sharia law. Frankly, I prefer to view it as a pro-Constitution law. It is only a side benefit that it also negates the official use of Sharia as any kind of law in the state of Texas, and I encourage the creation of similar bills in the rest of the states of the Union. People, the rise of political correctness and the inundation of Mohammedans into our countries has risen over a period of decades. Those of us who are not Islamophobic but Islam-aware would love it if none of the terrors committed by Muslims against non-Muslims had ever happened. But practically speaking, we can't have that. The best we can do is encourage our politicians to stem the tide of Islamization every step of the way they have to travel to get it done. Governor Jindal has been speaking his truths since January, as far as I can tell. And Mayor Van Doyne and the Irving City Council's move was bold. All of them have been called attention seekers, only wishing to use hot-button issues to grab the headlines. But what they and those like them around the world are saying and what they're doing is necessary if the civilized world is to survive, and I salute and encourage them for every positive thing that they do. That's it for this time. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for listening, and may your God go with you. Goodbye. The Unpleasant Blind Guy is copyright 2015, Anno Domini.